纪要演讲，我们请到了长岛大学的游戏设计系的系主任Ramiro Corbetta， 然后他本身呢也是知名的游戏开发者。那他曾经在 Keynote 上面与几个朋友一起启动了一个募资专案叫 Sportsfriends。那这个游戏呢，其实非常不错哦。那我们在外面也有展出，如果等一下听完演讲，可以去外面玩玩看，相信会有更多体验。那这一次他要讨论的主题是，整个从启动专案到完成专案，经过的募资，还有跟Sony各种签约的过程等等，这个带来非常非常多细节。相信今天坐在这边的人是绝对不会空手而回。好，那我们就掌声欢迎Ramiro。
Hello. Yeah, my name is Ramiro Corbetta, and I'm currently a professor and the director of the game design program at Long Island University Post, which is just outside of New York City.
大家好，我是 Ramiro Corbetta， 那现在是长岛大学的游戏设计系的系主任，那同时也是等一下要介绍 Sportsfriends 的游戏设计者。
And I'm here to speak about a game I made with 3 friends of mine called Sportsfriends.
那今天我们要介绍的是他跟其他伙伴一起做的 Sportsfriends 这款游戏。
Sportsfriends is a collection of 4 minimalist local multiplayer games.
Sportsfriends 是一款由4个本地端游戏所组成的小游戏。
And we often say it's kind of like an indie version of Wii Sports.
那我们常称呼它是一款独立的 Wii 游戏的组合游戏，就是类似像 Wii Sports 那样的游戏。
It's basically 4 small games and actually a couple of secret games that we put together as a package and sold it for $15.
那这款游戏是由4个大家可以看到，就荧幕上显示的4个小游戏所组成的一个组合型游戏。那每个游戏呢，大概都是$15美金。
But the 4 games were actually developed completely separately by 4 different people.
但这4个游戏都是由4个不同的人所开发的。
So just to tell you the members of the team. On the left, the first one is Noah Sasso, and he created a game called Barabari Ball.
那从最左边开始，图片中左边这位是 Noah Sasso， 那他是 Barabari Ball 的开发者。
And then the next one is Doug Wilson, and he created a game called Johann Sebastian Joust, and he was also the producer on Sportsfriends.
那左边第2位这位是 Doug Wilson， 那他是 Johann Sebastian Joust 的开发者，就是第2款游戏。那他同时也是 Sportsfriends 的制作人。
And there's me. I created a game called Hokra.
那第3位就是我们今天的讲者，那他所开发的游戏是 Hokra 这款游戏。
And finally, the one all the way on the right there is Bennett Foddy, and he created Super Pole Riders.
那最后一位在最右手边的这位是 Bennett Foddy， 那他是 Super Pole Riders 的开发者。
An important thing about this project is that we were not part of a studio together. We're not a company. We're just 4 different people who had individually made these games and then decided to come together to put them into a package.
那比较特别的是，我们并不是一个公司，我们也不是一个工作室，我们其实就是4个独立完成了各自的游戏之后，然后聚集在一起。
Before I get too deep into the game, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a game developer from New York City.
那在我们开始讲到游戏之前，先介绍关于我自己的事情。我是来自纽约的游戏开发者。
And as I said, I work at a university called Long Island University Post, or LIU Post. It's cutting off a little bit there, sorry. And I'm a professor there, and I'm the director of the game design program there.
那就如同大家所看到，我是长岛大学游戏设计系的系主任，那我同时也是在那边授课的教授。
So yeah, my work is a couple of hours outside of New York City, but I live in Manhattan.
那我大部分的时间会在纽约郊区教书跟工作，但我是住在曼哈顿。
But I wasn't born there. I'm originally from Brazil.
但我并不是在纽约当地出生，我事实上是来自巴西。
This is actually a picture of Rio de Janeiro. It's not the city I'm from, but it's kind of like the most beautiful picture of Brazil, so I decided to use it.
但我并不是来自这个照片中城市的小孩子，我只是觉得这张非常漂亮，所以跟大家分享。
This is the actual beach I used to go to as a kid. It's still pretty nice.
那这是我小时候最常去的海滩，然后非常的漂亮。
So when I was 12 years old, I moved to the United States with my family. We moved to Boston.
那后来到我国中毕业之后呢，我就跟我的家人一起搬家到了波士顿去。
People really care about baseball in Boston, so I decided I'd use, a picture of Fenway Park, the baseball stadium in Boston.
那因为那边的人非常的关心棒球这件事情，所以我就决定用这张照片来代表我所居住的地方。
And then when I was 18 years old, I actually moved to New York City for university to go to Columbia University.
那到我18岁的时候，我就搬到纽约，然后在哥伦比亚大学就读。
And about halfway through my college studies, I actually took some time off. I took one semester off to work at my first game job, working on this game with a really tough title. It's called Empire's Dawn of the Modern World.
但事实上，在我大学就学期间呢，我还是有中断我的学业，我休学了1学期，然后进入到这家电玩公司，然后参与了这款游戏的制作，它有一个非常难念的标题叫做 Empire Down Modern World。
And my job there was to be a quality assurance tester. So basically, I was playing this real-time strategy game all day, every day, trying to find bugs. And luckily, the game was actually fun to play, so I really enjoyed that job.
我的工作呢，就是要负责测试这款实时策略游戏，然后找出里面的一些错误跟一些 bug。那我觉得这款游戏非常的好玩，所以我也从中学习到非常多的事情。
So after that job, I went back to college, and I knew what I wanted to do. I said, look, I want to work in video games, and I went back and graduated from Columbia University.
那当我重返学校之后，我就比较清楚我自己想要做什么。因此呢，我从学校毕业之后，我就决定踏入电玩设计这个产业中。
And around the time when I was graduating, I was very lucky. I got a job as a game designer at this really small New York studio called Powerhead Games.
那我在毕业之后呢，就非常幸运的在这间公司叫 Powerhead Games 里面，然后担任游戏开发者。
I worked there for about 5 years as a game designer, and at Powerhead Games, we didn't necessarily make the most exciting games.
那我在这家公司大概做了5年的游戏设计者，但是我们并不是做非常紧张刺激的游戏类型。
So we made a lot of games for basically games based on franchises. Let's say, a new cartoon is coming out and they need someone to make the Nintendo DS version of that cartoon game. We would be the company that would make that.
那我们事实上做的游戏大多数都是根据像是卡通或是一些影集所已经呈现过的故事，然后再把它做成电玩的游戏。
So I didn't actually work on all those games, but I worked on a bunch of them. And I'd say that in the first 5 years of my career, I didn't make, the best games, but I had a chance to learn and practice a lot of game design because we were making these games very quickly.
那我并没有做图上所看到这些所有的游戏，但是我其实参与其中的蛮多的部分。那我会说我的事业前期其实并没有做出相当非常好最好的游戏，但是我事实上从这个过程当中学习到非常多的事情。
And even though the great majority of the games we're making here were for big publishers like Ubisoft or 2K Games or Konami or whatever, we finally did get a chance to make one of our own games, which is called Glow Artisan.
那刚刚提到的那些游戏呢，大部分都是为很多其他公司所合作开发的。但是后来他们自己呢就开发了出一款，就是真的是他们自己开发出的游戏，叫做 Glow Artisan。
And this Powerhead Games was not my company. I was working for someone, but they gave us a chance to basically, in between projects during the free time we had at the company, we started working on this game, and we ended up releasing it as an independent game released by Powerhead Games.
那事实上，这个游戏是我们在公司工作期间利用闲暇时间做的。那最后是由我们公司发行作为一个独立的游戏。
And we were very, very lucky that our game was accepted into the Independent Games Festival, and we actually won one of the awards there.
那我们也非常幸运，就是我们的游戏呢，在 Independent Games Festival 有参展。那我们事实上还在这边得了奖。
And because of this, I got a chance. Well, we got a chance to go to the Game Developers Conference in San Francisco and show our game in the Independent Games Festival space there.
那也因为这样，我们有机会到旧金山的游戏开发会议当中，那也在那边就是遇见了非常多的独立游戏开发者。
And while I was there, I met a lot of independent game developers. It was kind of like my introduction to the indie game scene.
那我在那边的期间呢，遇见了非常多独立开发者，那算是我成为一个独立开发者的一个契机。
So I quit my job and decided to go full time into independent game development.
所以我就辞职，然后决定成为一个全职的独立游戏开发者。
And at this time, I started working on a game called Hokra.
所以在这个时候，我就开始去制作这个游戏，叫做 Hokra。
And a lot of my talks are going to focus on this game Hokra and how it ends up becoming part of Sportsfriends. But let me just run you quickly through some other things I did over the last 5 or 10 years.
那接下来我会介绍说，我们到底是如何制作出这款游戏，以及如何催生了 Sportsfriends 这款游戏。
Because while I was making Hokra and Sportsfriends, I was also, I went to graduate school, but I also was working on lots of freelance projects where other people were paying me to be a game designer.
那事实上，我在做Sportsfriends 这款游戏的期间，其实我还正在念研究所，然后我也有同时接一些其他的工作。
For example, this is a bit strange, but I'm officially a game designer on Microsoft Solitaire.
那这个有一点奇怪，但事实上呢，我有帮微软就是做游戏的设计。
And obviously, Microsoft Solitaire has been in some version of Windows since the early 90s. So what we did is Microsoft, when they were making Windows 8, they wanted to make everything work with touchscreens. So I worked for this company as a game designer that remade Microsoft Solitaire so that it worked well with touchscreens.
那大家都知道微软的接龙是一个非常传统的微软的游戏。那但是在他们要推出 Windows 8的时候，他们决定就是要把这款游戏改良到变成触控萤幕也可以使用的游戏。
I also worked at this game company in New York that makes this game called Dots.
那我同时也开发了这款游戏叫做 Dots。
And I did some game design for them. I am not a really big part of this game. There are lots of other people in the company who are much more important than I am for this game.
那我事实上呢，并不是这个游戏的主要设计者，我有设计了一小部分，但还有其他非常多人在一起协力完成这款游戏。
But it's still really exciting because this is a game that when I'm on the subway in New York, I often see people playing it. So it's nice to see, random people playing something that you worked on.
但是非常令人兴奋的是，我在地铁上还蛮常看到有人在玩这款游戏的，所以他觉得非常的开心。
And finally, I got to work on a project with the Detroit Pistons.
我也非常幸运的可以跟 Detroit Pistons 合作这款游戏。
Which is exciting because it was a project based on, it's a video game that uses real video of the players. So I actually had to go to Detroit and help, film the players, and I got to play a little basketball in an NBA arena, which is really fun.
那因为这款游戏呢是使用球员真实投球的影片，所以我非常有幸的可以到底特律跟这些 NBA 球员就是一起工作。
So going back to Hokra.
那回到 Hokra 游戏本身。
So when I started making Hokra, I was playing lots and lots of FIFA, the soccer video game.
那在我制作 Hokra 之前呢，我其实玩了非常多一款叫做 FIFA 的游戏。
I was also playing lots of real life soccer, but I was definitely spending more time on FIFA than on real soccer.
那我也有玩真实的足球，只是我比起玩真实的足球，玩更多就是 FIFA 这款游戏。
So I started programming this basic like top-down passing game where you were one square and you could point the direction and hold the button and then you pass the ball in that direction and the ball would like bounce off of the walls.
所以我就开始设计这款游戏。这款游戏是俯视的角度，然后你可以看到就是角色的部分它会丢球，然后当你操控摇杆的时候，它就会持球。那你操控摇杆的时候，它另外的功能就是丢球这样子。
And at first I thought mostly of this as like a little programming challenge for myself because I was basically, starting to learn how to program my own games instead of just being a game designer.
那在制作这款游戏的过程当中，其实我遇到一些困难，因为我刚开始学习要如何去设计这款游戏而已。
So while I was working on this, my friend Sachin came over. And he's really into soccer too, and into video games. So I decided that I would add a second player, so there were two people, two little squares on the screen that could pass the ball back and forth to each other.
那后来我的朋友 Sachin 呢就过来一起帮助我，他也非常喜欢玩足球，所以呢我就决定多加一个玩家，这样子就会有1对1的玩家可以互相的丢球。
And amazingly, we had a lot of fun just passing the ball back and forth to each other in this very simple single-screen game. And this was the first time I started thinking that this could actually be its own game.
那我们两个只是很单纯的就是互相来回的丢球而已。那可是我们认为就是这样子的游戏模式呢，好像真的可以把它做成一个好玩的游戏。
And here's the first time I want to talk about the importance of community when making a game like Corbetta.
所以接下来我就要讲，就是事实上制作 Corbetta 这款游戏最重要的关键就是 community 社群这个概念。
If I were sitting alone in my bedroom working on this game, I would definitely not have thought of the very first basic idea that actually this is a multiplayer game.
如果我自己一个人坐在房间里面，然后想这款游戏的话，事实上是没有办法把这款游戏变成一个多人玩的游戏。
So after this, I realized, I have 4 controllers that are plugged into my computer. Why not make it a 2-on-2 game? So it became a 4-player game at this point.
那我后来发现到，既然有4个操控器可以接在我的电脑，那为什么不要把这款游戏变成也是可以多人玩的游戏？
And then I added the goals to the corners, and I came up with the idea that basically whenever the ball is on top of the goal of your color, you're getting points.
所以我就在荧幕上所看到4个角部分也放上了，就是可以投球的球门。那只要把球呢移进目标的颜色区块之中，你就可以得分。
So this was probably 1 or 2 weeks into my development of this game, and the basic game was already built.
那事实上这个过程大概花了我1到2周的时间，但是这个状态之下，我的游戏已经都成型了。
Obviously, for any of you who make video games, you know that having the basic game built probably means you've done 1% of the work you have to do.
那很明显的，大家应该都知道，只要你把这个游戏的雏形做出来之后，其实你就后面就会比较快速一点。
Let me just switch to a little video of the game just so you can see the game in action. This is a video of me explaining the game to the website Kotaku.
那我们现在就来看看Corbetta 这个游戏它实际玩起来是什么样的情况。
Your color. Whenever the ball is touching the ball of your color, you're getting points. And it's all about trying to pass it to your teammate when the other players come your way, and team play and really fast paced.
There's like a little meter in the square that counts up the more possession that you have.
Yeah, and when the meter fills up, then the goal itself is its own meter. And when the meter fills up, that means you win with the team.
And your team.
Right. So right now we're going to play the New York level, which is the original level. Noah and I are the purple team. Doug and Bennett are the green team. So yeah, Noah and I are trying to hold the ball in the areas of our color. Like if I can get the ball. Yeah, go steal it from me. So yeah.
So yes, basically whenever the ball is in the purple areas, purple is getting points. When it's the green areas, green is getting points. Sorry, the screen is cutting off a little bit, so you're missing the edges of the game, which turns out for Oprah like the most important part.
那 事实上可以很清楚的看到，就是当紫色队把球放到紫色框框的时候就可以得分，那反之绿色队放到绿色框框也是可以得分，只是今天这个荧幕的 size 的关系，所以那个旁边的边界有稍微被解掉。那可以看到那个颜色的变化，就是得分的状态。
So, going back to the concept of community, I want to tell you about this place called Baby Castles.
那回到我们刚刚提到 community 社群这个概念，那我想要跟大家谈的是 Baby Castle 这个地方。
Baby Castles is an art gallery in New York City that focuses on showing video games.
那 Baby Castle 是在纽约的艺廊，它主要呢是在给大家看一些游戏的展览空间。
And the original idea for Baby Castles was actually from my friend Corbetta, who is actually a friend of mine from college.
那这个Baby Castle 的概念呢，是来自他的一个朋友叫做 Corbetta， 那他也是我大学的同学。
And Baby Castles is a very like DIY, meaning do-it-yourself, punk style to how they run their space.
那 Baby Castle 是一个非常你要就是自己动手做的一个地方，那充满了朋克的风格。
And that means that sometimes things don't work quite perfectly and everything is kind of falling apart. But it also means that the community, the people who are there, have a lot of input on how the place is run.
那你会看到这边的作品呢，可能好像都是四零八落的，但事实上这也代表就是常常会在这边聚集的这些人们呢，他们其实有非常多注入这个地方的一些灵感。
And Baby Castles was originally actually in the basement of this house where like 5 or 6 people lived, and almost every night of the week they'd have some like illegal shows by local bands. So it was a very kind of like wild space.
那 Baby Castle 这个地方，它其实是位在一个5、6个人住的一个家庭公寓里面，它是在地下室。那他们常常会在周末的时候会有一些地下乐团在那边演出。
And while I was making Hopra, I was hanging out at Baby Castles a lot. So I did a bunch of the development of the game there, but I also always had a community who were ready to play my game.
那我在做 Hopra 这款游戏的时候呢，其实我也就常常想到 Baby Castle 这个地方。那事实上，我也会想到说 Baby Castle 那边就有一群人可以帮助我一起制作这款游戏。
And at that time, I always had my laptop with me and 4 controllers in my backpack. So I was always ready to just, take out the game and show it to people and get some feedback from a new group of people.
那在那个时候，我常常就是带着我的笔电以及我的4个游戏控制器，然后常常拿出来就邀请那边的朋友一起帮我玩这款游戏。
And I actually met Doug Wilson, who's the producer on Sportsfriends, at a Baby Castles event.
那我事实上也是在 Baby Castle 那边遇见了Sportsfriends 的制作人 Doug Wilson。
And then Bennett Foddy, who's another one of the developers in Sportsfriends. The first time I played his game Co-Writers, which ended up in Sportsfriends, was actually at a Baby Castles event.
那另外一个我们的伙伴叫做 Bennett Foddy， 事实上我也是在 Baby Castle 那边第一次玩到他的游戏。那他的游戏是 Super Co-Writers。
And finally, Noah Sasso, who's the other member of Sportsfriends, he's part of the New York indie games community. So I was hanging out with him at Baby Castles a lot.
那另外一个游戏制作人叫 Noah Sasso。
Noah Sasso, yes.
Noah Sasso， 那事实上我也是跟他常常在纽约，就是会一起到处的游走。
And obviously, what I'm getting at here is that community, but also like physical spaces, are very, very important for the development of games.
那事实上，我在 Baby Castle 这边就是体认到说，除了社群互助的这个概念之外，还有就是实体，真的是大家可以聚集在一起玩游戏的这个概念。
And when making Sportsfriends, I was also often co-working with other New York area indie developers, so I was getting a lot of feedback from them.
那我在做 Sportsfriends 这款游戏的时候，我也获得了很多纽约当地独立游戏开发者的一些回馈。
And finally, while I made a great majority of Hopra by myself, all the audio and the music are made by Nathan Tompkins, who is actually my college roommate.
那我在做 Hopra 这款游戏的时候，里面大部分的音效的部分是我的室友叫做 Nathan Tompkins 帮忙的。
Which goes back to the concept of community, right? I don't think you can make a good game in a vacuum completely by yourself.
那这又回到我们刚刚提到的 community 的这个概念，因为我不认为你可以自己独立一个人在真空的状态下创作出一个好的游戏。
This is obviously especially true if you're making a 4-player game by yourself.
那这件事情更能够显示在，比如说你要制作4个人玩的游戏上面。
I also think it's very, very hard to market your game in a vacuum, but I'm going to talk about marketing a little bit later.
那事实上，我也认为呢，如果你要谈到行销的话，你自己独立一个人的真空状态是更难去做到这件事情的。那我们稍后会提到关于行销这方面的事情。
And I think that like a good game designer is not someone who has all the best ideas all alone, but someone who knows how to pick the best ideas from all the smart people around them.
那我们认为，就像一路上大家可以看到这个，就是一个好的游戏设计者呢，并不是他可以把好的想法都用出来，独自的用出来，而是他知道如何去选择其他人给他的建议中那些比较好的想法。
And I mean, I think being able to tell when someone's playtesting your game, being able to tell which feedback is really good and which feedback to ignore is a huge skill set, a very important skill for a game designer.
那事实上，我认为最重要对于一个游戏设计者来说的一个能力，就是你如何从众多的意见当中选出哪些意见是对你有用的，而哪些意见是你可以忽略的。
And this actually makes me think of this very good piece of wisdom that Colleen Macklin, who was my professor in graduate school, told me.
那这个也让我想到，就是有一段非常有智慧的话，是由我的教授 Colleen Macklin 他所说的。
She said that when you're playtesting your game and someone gives you an idea, don't necessarily take their idea and implement it, but try to understand why, like what's the problem in the game that's making them give you that idea.
那他所说的这段话意思就是呢，当有一个人给你一些游戏的建议跟想法的时候，你并不是直接截取他的这个意见，而是你要去想说为什么他会提出这样的想法，这个想法背后所代表的问题跟意义到底是什么。
Look, I mean, if their idea is very good, go ahead and use it. But maybe they're giving you a bad idea, and you can use that idea to understand what you actually have to change in the game, and then you use your own idea to change it.
那如果人们给你一个很好的想法，你当然就是可以直接采用。但是他如果给你一个不是太好的想法，也许你就可以利用这个想法去回推说，他为什么会提出这样子的概念
？So going back to baby castles, this is also a baby castles, and I would always bring my computer and 4 controllers there. And one time, Charles Pratt, the man who's holding the beer in the middle there, he played a bunch of my games at Baby Castles.
那再回到 Baby Castle 这个地方，那我常常带着就是我的游戏控制器呢到这个地方。那大家可以看到图片中间那一位拿着饮料的这个人，他是 Charles Pratt.
Yeah. And Charles Pratt is a professor at the NYU Game Center, and they invited me to be part of this exhibition called No Quarter.
那 Charles Pratt 呢，他是纽约大学的 Game Center， 就是游戏中心的教授。那他也玩过我非常多的游戏，所以他就邀请我参加 No Quarter 这个活动。
So yeah, I originally made Hopra for this exhibition called No Quarter, but they don't take, it's not their game, I still own the game, but the first time I showed it was at this exhibition called No Quarter.
那所以我就为了这个活动就把 Hopra 制作出来，但事实上这个游戏还是属于我的，不是属于这个活动，但是是 Hopra 第一次公开的展示。
And when I made Hopra, I didn't think of it as a commercial product. I thought of it as this like little game that, even though it didn't make any sense commercially, it was something that I enjoyed making.
那事实上，我一开始在制作 Hopra 这款游戏的时候，完全没有想到要把它当做一个商品来制作，我只是认为它就是一个小游戏而已。
But then after the No Quarter exhibition, people outside of New York City started hearing about the game and asked me to show it in other places.
但事实上，在透过参加 No Quarter 这个活动的过程当中呢，纽约之外的人就知道这个游戏，然后开始希望可以玩到这款游戏。
So in the year after No Quarter happened, I ended up showing the game in Toronto, Amsterdam, at 2 really big parties at the Game Developers Conference, at Indiecade, and at E3, which was with Indiecade as well.
那所以在 No Quarter 之后，隔年呢，我就带着游戏到了非常多的城市去展示。那我到的城市有多伦多，然后阿姆斯特丹，还有2个非常大型的展览，一个是 Game Developer Conference Parties， 然后还有一个是在 E3。
And then suddenly, like hundreds of people had played this game, even though it was nowhere close to release, and I wasn't even thinking about releasing it.
那也因为这样子呢，就有超过100人呢玩过我的游戏。那事实上，我根本还没有想过要发行这款游戏。
And then once people start noticing your game, there's almost this snowball effect, which just like it spreads very quickly.
但是，一旦当人们知道这款游戏之后，就像水球效应一样，越来越多人就知道这款游戏了。
And a very important note about my privilege here, I was living in New York City, which is one of the easiest places in the world to get your game noticed, at least by the American and European media.
但是其中我有个优势是，因为我住在纽约的关系，所以这样的地利关系会让更多人知道我的游戏，包含像美国其他的地方，还有欧洲其他的城市。
So this is me and Doug Wilson. Doug Wilson is the producer on Sportsfriends.
那这张照片就是我跟 Doug Wilson， 他就是 Sportsfriends 的开发者。
And Doug really liked Corbetta, and he started saying, how can we actually make this into a real commercial product?
那个 Doug Wilson 非常喜欢我的 Corbetta 这款游戏，所以我们就开始想要如何把这款游戏变成一个商品。
And Doug had this idea of, let's get together a collection of similar small games.
所以就开始有一个想法，就是想说做一个合集，把一些小游戏结合在一起。
So Doug and I started looking for similar games, and we were asking ourselves, what ties these games together?
那我们就开始找合作的人们，但是我们也开始在思考说，我们要找什么样的游戏。
So what kinds of games? So we were saying, we told ourselves, we need all these games to be local multiplayer, meaning, not online, but a bunch of people in front of on one couch in front of one TV.
那我们第一个想到的就是希望是本地端的多人游戏，就是大家可以同时处在一个空间，然后一起玩这款游戏。
We want all these games to be minimalist, meaning very easy to pick up and simple but still interesting.
那我们希望这个游戏是非常的简单，非常的极简。
We want these games to be somehow related to sports because was part of what Okra was when a lot of these games that were coming out were.
那我们也希望这些游戏的类型是运动类型，因为 Corbetta 也是的确是一款跟运动相关的游戏。
And we wanted the games to be audience friendly, by which we meant that if the 2 of us are playing it and all of you are watching us play it, you can still have fun watching people play it.
那我们也希望这些游戏呢是对观看者也是非常友善的。例如，我们2个人在玩游戏，但是旁边的人在看这款游戏，我们在玩的过程中，他可以很轻易的就看懂我们在做什么。
And that often meant that we were looking for games that work really well at parties and at public events.
那所以我们就希望这些游戏是可以在一些公开场合，或是在一些派对的过程当中是可以玩的。
Okay. So really quickly, I want to talk to you about each of the games. First of all, this is Volleyball by Noah Sasso.
那接下来我要非常快速跟大家介绍我们所有的游戏。第一个是 Volleyball， 那是 Noah Sasso 所开发的。
And Volleyball is basically a fighting game mixed with volleyball, and it was made by also a New York indie game developer, and it was actually first made for the No Quarter exhibition the year after I made my game.
那这款游戏其实是在我在 No Quarter 展出的隔年之后，也同时在这个活动上展出。它主要是以排球为主的对抗游戏。
This is Super Pole Riders by Bennett Foddy. It's a physics ball kicking game based on the sport of pole vaulting.
那这个游戏是 Super Go Rider， 是 Bennett Foddy 所开发的。这款游戏呢，它是利用物理的原理，然后你要使用撑杆跳来踢球。
And when Bennett made this, he was an academic at Oxford University in England. But during his free time, he would make these like really weird online games, and he's best known for the game QWOP, like QWOP.
那 Bennett Foddy 在做这款游戏的时候，他当时还是在剑桥大学的一个研究者，他只是利用他的闲暇时间开发出这款游戏。那Bennett Foddy 他最有名的游戏就是 QWOP。
And then finally, and this wasn't part of the idea at first, but Doug Wilson, who's the producer, we ended up including his game Johann Sebastian Joust.
那最后一个游戏呢，其实我们一开始并没有想要制作这款游戏，但最后我们还是决定把它收入。它是由 Doug Wilson 所开发的Johann Sebastian Joust。
And Joust is actually like a physical game that uses the PlayStation Move controller. And the idea of Joust is that you're trying to like make someone else's controller shake without shaking yours. So you're kind of protecting your controller and trying to like hit someone else's controller and make it shake.
那 Just 这款游戏呢，事实上是一个需要我们实际有身体上使用的一些游戏。那它其实最主要的玩法就是你必须拿着你的操控器，然后保护它，不要让它震动。但是你要同时去碰触别人的操控杆，然后让别人的操控杆会震动。
And Doug was actually a PhD student in Copenhagen in Denmark when I met him. And I first played Joust at his house, the house he was renting at the Game Developers Conference. I don't remember what year.
那事实上在我遇见 Doug Wilson Doug Wilson 那个时期呢，他还在
in Copenhagen in Denmark.
那他当时还在丹麦的哥本哈根，就是读博士学位。那我是在他租的那个房子里面第一次玩到 Just 这个游戏。
So an important thing about these games is that they were showing up at events long before we even thought about Sportsfriends being a thing.
那其实最重要的一点是，这些所有的游戏呢，事实上在我们做 Sportsfriends 这款游戏之前，他们都已经有展示过了。
So lots of people were playing these games at these events, and then they were talking about it online, and other people were saying like, "Oh, I wish I got to play those games, and how come all these school people get to go to the events and play these games and I don't?"
那也因为这样，很多人就会在网络上讨论说，我也想要玩这款游戏，但是为什么我没有办法玩到？
So before we even thought about Sportsfriends, we're actually all marketing our games in a very similar way by showing them at these exclusive events.
那事实上，我们在组成 Sportsfriends 这款游戏之前，事实上我们已经在行销我们各自的游戏了。那各自我们行销的方式都是差不多的，我们都是在活动中展示我们的游戏。
And we didn't think of it as marketing, right? We just wanted people to play our games. But now that I think about it, we actually were already doing marketing.
那事实上，我们当时没有想的太多，我们只是想要人们玩我们的游戏而已。但没有想到，这个事实上已经在帮我们做行销了。
This is Nick Sutner.
那这位人是 Nick Sutner.
Nick Sutner used to be one of the indie games representatives for Sony PlayStation.
那他之前是Sony 公司里面的独立游戏开发代表。
And at one point, Nick wrote on Twitter saying like, "Hey, does anyone know other good local multiplayer games other than?" And then he listed a few games that he had already played, and Hokra was one of those games that he listed.
那之前 Nick 呢有在 Twitter 上面就是有问过大家说有没有人知道一些本地端的游戏，那他也做了一个清单，说这是他玩过的游戏，那 Hokra 就是其中之一。
And we had met Nick before this at some of these game events. I actually had a chance to show Hokra to Nick at a Game Developers Conference party.
那我也非常有幸的可以在一个派对当中有把我的游戏展示给 Nick 看。
So Doug reached out. Doug, the game producer, reached out to Nick, telling him about Sportsfriends, this project we were starting to make. And soon we were negotiating a deal to get the game on the Sony PlayStation.
那后来 Doug 呢就联络上了 Nick， 然后告诉他说我们有这个 Sportsfriends 游戏的概念。那接着 Nick 就帮我们跟 Sony 呢开始谈这个游戏的开发。
So basically, we were part of this program called Sony Pub Fund.
那基本上我们就是属于 Sony Pub Fund 这个计划的其中一员。
And the way Sony Pub Fund works is basically Sony promises to give you a certain amount of money once your game is finished. So basically, once you finish the game, you're sure to make at least some money on the game, and that's like an advance on sales, but I won't go into the details of that.
那 Sony Pub Fund 这个计划最主要的一个帮助的地方，就是它承诺我们会在游戏结束之后会给我们一笔钱。
And unfortunately, our contract makes it very clear that I can't tell you how much money they gave us. Otherwise, I would. But the important thing here is that the money gets to us when the game is done. So to make the game, we still have no money.
那最重要的是，因为有合约的关系，所以我没办法告诉大家太多金钱的细节。但是一个比较重要的概念就是，至少我们在游戏完成之后，可以确保我们自己是会有获得一笔钱的。
And remember, we're not a studio here, so it's not like we have profits from the previous game to pay for this game. And even though we never planned on paying us getting any money, the four of us all made the game, we knew that we'd have other costs.
那补充一下，前面就是讲到说，Sony 会给他们的一笔游戏结束之后会有一笔钱，但是在游戏制作的过程当中，Sony 是没有给他们任何钱的。那他们认为是这样子会比较帮助他们在游戏完成上会比较有保障。
So we decided to run a Kickstarter to try to raise the money we needed to get the game made.
那因为在游戏过程中没有任何收入的关系，所以我们决定上 Kickstarter 去募集我们可以制作这款游戏的资金。
So our original idea is that we were going to go on Kickstarter and ask for $50,000.
那我们一开始的想法就是上 Kickstarter， 然后希望可以募集到15万美金。
And we thought about Kickstarter as basically saying, hey, do people want us to make this game? You know, is there enough value in this game that we should spend a long time making it and not getting paid? And if there is, then probably some people will give us some money beforehand before we make it.
不好意思，刚刚修正一下，他们希望的金额是5万美金。那最重要的是在 Kickstarter 上面募资的话，就可以事先得到一些其他人的帮助。
But then we started doing the math, and we realized that $50,000, even if we never paid ourselves at all, was not nearly enough money to make the game. So if we raised exactly $50,000, we'd be in a lot of trouble.
我们就开始在做一些计算，结果发现5万美金根本不足以让我们的游戏可以开发完成，甚至还会带来一些问题。
And as we kept doing the math, it kept going up and up, and we realized that we actually needed $150,000 to make the game, which sounds like a lot, but I'm actually going to break down how we spent that money soon.
所以我们就开始计算到底我们真正需要的是多少的资金，结果没想到数字一直往上飙，最后算出来的结果是15万美金。
And I have to move a little fast, so I'll tell you the Kickstarter story in one sentence. When we announced it did really well. We reached out to every journalist we knew and got them to actually, write articles and give interviews with us, all coming out on the same day. Kickstarter does very well at first.
那我们就决定呢，要很快速的在 Kickstarter 上面开始募资，而且在募资的当天呢，我们也联络了非常多的记者，希望可以在同一天把我们募资的这个消息，就是全部把消息刊登出来。
And then the Kickstarter campaign was 4 weeks long. By the middle, it was really not doing very well, and we're almost accepting that, okay, we're not going to make this game, and also we're not going to have to spend 2 years making this game. And then at the very end, the Kickstarter did better, and we actually raised $152,000.
那因为前面上去募资的第一天呢，有非常多的消息露出，所以在第一周的募资是非常非常好的。可是，在第2周、第3周开始呢，募资就开始往下降，我们就开始接受说我们有可能无法完成这个游戏的募资，甚至无法开发出这款游戏。
But because Kickstarter has fees and things like that, we actually got about $137,000 in the bank.
那后来情况比较好转之后呢，我们最后获得金钱，扣掉一些其他的支出，就是要付给 Kickstarter 的一些费用。最后我们得到的金钱是13.7万美金。
And turns out making Sportsfriends, even if we didn't pay ourselves, cost a lot of money. And the main cost was that we hired 2 programmers to port our games into C++.
但是这个金钱的最主要的用处呢，是我们雇佣了2个程式设计师，把我们所有的游戏用成相同的语言，全部用成 C++ 这样子的语言。
And we were lucky that some friends of ours from an indie game studio let us use their C++ engine for free, so that was not a cost. But since all our games are developed in different languages, like X and A, C# for one, Flash for the other, Unity for the other, and GameMaker for the other, we needed to bring them all together, basically program all the games again.
那因为我们4款游戏全部都是用不同的语言写成的，包含有 XNA， 还有 GameMaker 跟 Flash。Unity、C# 还有 C# 不同的语言，所以我们必须要把这4款不同语言的游戏全部写成 C++ 的程式语言。
So while making the game, before the game ever came out, we spent money on the following things.
那我们事实上呢是在等一下会列一个清单给大家看，我们到底实际把钱花在哪里。
Programming.
第一个是就是程式设计的部分。
Visual design.
还有视觉设计。
That's like for all the menus, the visual design for all the menus. Music.
音效。那刚刚视觉设计就是包含那个主要的选单的部分。
Lawyers.
还有法律顾问、律师的部分。
Very, very expensive.
非常贵。
Accountants, you gotta pay accountants.
当然还有账户、会计师。
Hardware, you need computers.
当然还有硬体的部分，需要电脑。
Kickstarter rewards, all those T-shirts are not free.
那我们要给那些赞助我们的 Kickstarter 的那些人有一些回馈。
Software.
还有软体的部分。
Ratings boards, you know that little thing that shows up before the game comes up saying only people who are 18 or older can play this game. When we did it, Europe charged for that.
那我们同时也要付给，就是在欧洲发行的时候，它有一个分级制度版的部分。
We needed a VPN. That was for Sony stuff. Don't worry.
那当然还有 VPN 的部分。
We made a release trailer.
还有一个发行的宣传片。
Very, very quick story about the release trailer. We invited a bunch of friends to come to our place to be in the film. We told them we'd get them pizza and beer. Turns out when you say pizza and beer, everyone comes. That was very expensive.
那有一个非常有趣的小故事，就是我们要拍宣传影片的时候，我们告诉大家说，可以来就是我们的家里面一起拍，会有免费的啤酒跟披萨，就没想到大家都来了。
Website hosting, we made our own website, but we still needed to host it.
当然还有我们的网站制作部分。
Refund donor payments. Somebody entered the wrong amount into Kickstarter and then sent us an email saying, "I don't have that money. Please give it back." We had to give back a large amount of money to someone.
那因为在 Kickstarter 上面有一个募资者，他就是打错了他要募集的金额，他打的太多了，所以他就写 email 希望我们可以退回那笔钱。
And going to festivals and conferences.
当然我们要去非常多的记者会，还有很多的其他的活动。
Okay, this is the thing you actually want to take a picture of. That's the actual expenses down to the cents.
那这张图应该是大家非常有兴趣的一张图。
So, programming, the big chunk. Visual design and sound is almost $27,000. This is promotion, meaning the trailer and going to festivals and things like that. Hardware and software costs, Kickstarter rewards, lawyers and accountants, and other is just, there's a bunch of things in other. We didn't know where to put everything.
那大家可以看到，就如同清单上面所列出来，这是我们实际所支出的金额。
So also, since Sony had, we had a deal with them, they wanted our game to do well. But I don't think they really cared that much about the money. The kind of money we make is pretty meaningless for a company like Sony. I think they wanted our game to do well because having these like weird indie games as part of the PlayStation brand makes people think that PlayStation is cool.
那当然，我们跟 Sony 有一些合作，但是我们认为，就是我们这款游戏对 Sony 来说，可能它并不是主要重视我们的游戏可以让他们收入多少，他们真正希望的是在Sony 这样的品牌之下，他们是包含这些非常奇特而且有多元类型的独立游戏。
And that meant the people at Sony gave us space at a lot of festivals, which I think an important thing here is that by getting Sony interested in our game, we basically got a lot of free marketing, and that's very, very useful.
那也因为加入 Sony 跟 Sony 合作的关系，所以我们在很多的场合都会有一个摊位。那也因为这样子的关系，我们事实上得到很多免费的露出的机会。
And people often say that marketing is not just about convincing, game players or even convincing the press that your game's interesting. It's really important to convince people like Sony or Microsoft or Apple or Nintendo that your game is worth something, because then they will help boost your game.
那事实上，最重要的不是去说服说玩家啊，还有其他的记者说我们的游戏很好玩。事实上是你要有办法去取得这些大厂牌的信任，他们就会给你非常多的资源。
And even when Sony didn't have space for us, we would just go and pay for our own space at these festivals.
那即便是有些活动 ，Sony 并没有给我们摊位，我们还是会自己付钱去争取一个摊位。
And a lot of our marketing was very grassroots. It was about getting people, cool people in the press and cool game developers to play our game and then talk about it on Twitter or Facebook or wherever else.
那我们行销方式比较像是病毒式的传播，我们会邀请非常多非常酷炫的玩家或是一些评论家玩我们的游戏，然后他们就会在 Facebook 还有 Twitter 上面散播这些评论。
We also, while showing people this game, we'd often talk about this concept of the comeback of local multiplayer games. Because multiplayer games are moving online a lot, and we were saying, hey, what about games where people are actually together in the same room?
那因为我再度回到我们刚刚提到的概念，就是希望人们可以聚集在一起玩这个游戏，因为现在越来越多的游戏是线上的，但是我们更重视的是人们可以聚集在同一个空间，然后一起玩一个好玩相同的游戏。
And even though we really, really did care about the comeback of local multiplayers, this ended up turning into a very good marketing move for us. Because when a journalist would write a story about our game, they would have something else to write about instead of just saying this is a good game. There was a story for them to write.
那因为我们非常重视，就是可以回归到像是本地端的线下游戏的这样的类型。那也因为这样的概念，让非常多的记者有素材，比较特别的主题可以来写我们的游戏。
And I think a very important thing about marketing is that you have to give journalists a good story. You can't just show them a good game and say, write about this game. If they have something interesting to write around the game, something that sets your games, like your story, not the narrative of your game, but like some kind of story that's outside of the game, they have a much, much better story and a better headline to write.
那最重要的行销的策略，最重要的概念就是给记者一个好的故事，一个好的概念去写。那因为给了记者好的素材之后呢，他就不会单纯只是写说这个游戏好玩的点，他比较不会单方面去写，反而他可以利用比较周围的一些故事实例来写这个，来介绍这个游戏。
And for us, that story was the words local multiplayer. We kept saying local multiplayer, and it became a thing that people talked about. When they talked about that, they would always mention our game, which is an extra bonus, because if anyone wrote a story about local multiplayer, Sportsfriends is always there.
那因为我们常常在强调 local multiplayer， 就是本地端的多人玩家游戏，也因为这样，所以这个字成为我们 Sportsfriends 这款游戏的关键词。只要大家提到 local multiplayer， 都会想到我们的游戏。
Alright, let's talk about money.
那接下来我们要谈到关于金钱的部分，资金的部分。
So I wasn't making money when I was making Sportsfriends, and I was very lucky because basically my wife was paying for my life then.
那我在制作这款游戏的时候，事实上没有赚钱，但是是我的太太支持我非常多。
And having a wife who is, paying your rent and paying for your food is a huge privilege, and I understand that I'm very lucky and that most people don't have that situation.
那有太太的支持，在我的日常生活当中，我认为是非常幸运的，因为可能很多人没有这样子的优势。
And one more thing, when you're talking about money, I think talking about money publicly and openly is very difficult because it can very easily sound like you're trying to show off about how much money you made or you're trying to complain about how little money you made. But I think that if we don't talk openly about money, actually, I think if we do talk openly about money, it's much easier for everyone to better understand how to make their financial decisions when making video games.
那事实上要公开谈到我们游戏收入这件事情，可能 对大家来说并不是非常简单的一件事情。但是我认为，如果可以跟大家分享关于收入的这一方面的话，会让大家对制作游戏的过程以及我们之后得到的利润有更多的想法跟认识。
And I think like a lot of the stories that you end up hearing about money in indie games, it's either one of two stories. One is like, I made like $100 million and I'm really rich and I don't know, now I'm like notch and I became a terrible person. Or I made no money and like I spent 5 years in this game and I only make $100, like, you know, I'm in a really tough situation. And I think it's interesting to talk about the mid-level, a game that's like successful enough, but not like a huge hit.
那其实大家常常听到就是关于独立游戏开发的收入的部分，常会听到说他可能开发了这款游戏之后，他就变成了亿万富翁，他赚了非常多的钱。可是也有另外一种极端的例子，是他可能花了5年的时间开发一款独立游戏，就最后没有赚到任何的钱，然后过得非常的穷苦。可是这两个极端的例子大家都很常听到。我今天想要分享的是比较中间一般比较中等阶级的，大家会比较常接触到的例子。
So yeah, sorry if I'm being impolite by talking too openly about money, but I'm going to talk very openly about money now.
那也许公开讲收入的部分可能会有点稍微失礼，但是我还是希望可以跟大家谈这块。
So these are our sources of revenue. These are all the different places that at some point sent us a check for money made from Sportsfriends.
那接下来就是我们用 Sportsfriends 这一款游戏获得收入的一些管道。
Kickstarter.
那第一个就是 Kickstarter。
After we finished the Kickstarter campaign, we wanted to keep pre-orders open so people could order the game before it came out. So the Humble Store is where we did pre-orders for the game.
那因为我们希望可以让玩家们可以预购这款游戏，所以 Humble Store pre-order 就帮助了我们。
The Sony Pub Fund, which I talked about, we paid them back because it was actually an advance, but still they sent us money when the game came out.
那当然就是我们刚刚前面有提到 Sony Pub Fund 的部分。
The PlayStation Network, PSN, basically, you know, if you download the game on PlayStation, this is where the majority of our money comes from.
那当然就是PS 上面的销售商店的部分，这是我们最主要的收入来源。
Sales on Steam, people really don't buy the game that much on Steam.
那当然还有在 Steam 上面的销售。
Humble Store, which is just another store, kind of like Steam, where you can buy a PC game.
那当然还有 Humble Store Sales， 那一样可以在上面买到一些 PC game。
In Humble Bundles, I'm not going to go into what a Humble Bundle is, but we were in a few smaller Humble Bundles. We made some money from that.
当然还有 Humble Bundles， 但是我们没有要提太多这方面的事情。
And finally, PlayStation Plus.
那最后就是 PlayStation Plus。
So if you have a PlayStation Plus account, you get 3 or 4 free games every month. We were a very early PlayStation 4 game, so we were lucky that when Sony needed, you know, a game to give to all the PlayStation Plus subscribers, they didn't have that many options. So they came to us and they paid us a nice amount of money for us to become free for 1 month. I unfortunately cannot say how much they paid us. That's in our contract.
那PlayStation Plus 上面，如果你有它的账户，你就会获得一些免费的小游戏。那一开始在开发的时候，我们非常幸运获得 Sony 的赏识，所以我们成为就是其中一款你可以免费玩1个月的游戏。但是因为有契约关系，所以我们不会公开收入是多少。
So I'm about to show you a chart of how much we made per year in the first 3 years of development. An important thing is the following things all came in the first year.
那接下来我要给你们看一个图表，是我们前3年的收入的图表。
All the Kickstarter money, Humble pre-orders, Sony Pub Fund, the Humble bundles I think were in the first year, and all the PlayStation Plus money. So a lot of money came in the first year, not just for sales, but for all these other promotions.
那等一下要给大家看那个图表，收入的主要来源就是 Kickstarter, Humble Store, Pre-orders, Sony Pub Fund, PlayStation Network. Humble bundles
and the PlayStation Plus. That all happened in the first year. So yeah, money.
全部是第1年的收入。
This is our revenue per year. this is how much money showed up in our bank account. This is not our profits. We still have to pay people. But in the first year, and this is cutting out. This is year 1, year 2, year 3. The game came out in May 2014. So I'm doing all the math through April 2017. So this is basically, this is 14, 15. This is 15, 16. This is 16, 17. You can notice the money goes down, but a lot of this has to do with like Kickstarter and PlayStation Plus and Humble Bundles is on the first year. If we were, I wish I could break it down even smaller for you, but I can't break it down in any way that shows how much money we made on the PlayStation Store or on Pub Fund or PlayStation Plus, because all the contracts say we can't do that. So this is like all the money we made added up together each year.
那从左边开始就是第1年、第2年、第3年的总收入，大家可以看到就是数字有稍微有下降的趋势。但是呢，大家所看到这个数字是总收入，就是还没有扣掉我们必须要付的费用，都还没有扣，这是全部的收入额。那我原本也是希望可以把它再分更细给大家看，但是因为有些合约上的规定，所以没有办法，比较抱歉。
So the next chart I'm about to show you is not actually our exact sales. But it's a chart that kind of shows how the sales go over time. Meaning they go up and then there's like might be a bump and then they go down. But this, and unfortunately you don't see the very beginning, but there's, I can't show, there's another month here that's much bigger, which is the first month. But after that it goes down. But there's an amazingly long tail, meaning the game is still making little bits of money all the time.
那接下来这个图表呢，是我们的大概我们的销售量，但不是非常的精准，但是可以大家看到，就是我们的销售量是不断的有上升、下降，像是不断有在浮动这样子。那因为这个赛事的关系，所以最左边其实有第1个月就是比较多数字的一个图表，是被切掉的。最主要是表达给大家说，我们的销售量以长时间来看，它其实还是有不断在浮动的。
And this isn't the actual chart for how much money the game made per month, but it's pretty close representative. It's like one region in one place.
那它并不是非常精准的一个每个月我们销售量的图表，但是已经算是可以大致展示出我们销售的状况。
So I'm going to talk about basically how we split all the revenue that we got. Actually, this should say profit split because it's like all the profit that we got.
那接下来我要跟大家大致说明一下我们后来的收入是怎么去分的。
So first of all, the programmers, other than we gave them money up front, as you saw in the beginning, but we also gave them a profit share from the game because the programmers spent a lot of time converting this game into C++. So on top of the money that we gave them at first, we also gave them 7.5% of all profits forever.
那程式设计师的部分，因为我们一开始把那个所有的游戏源改成 C++ 的部分，那我们虽然一开始有付给他们钱，但是因为游戏发行之后，还是会持续的付给他们钱。那这个部分就是7.5%。
And then the other 92.5% that we had left, we split it into 5 parts.
那接下来剩下的92.5%部分，我们把它分成5个部分。
We had 1 share for each game, and then and 1 share for production. So basically, Doug Wilson, who's the producer, he made one of the games, but he's also the producer, so he gets 2 shares. So each of us gets 1 share plus 1 extra share for the producer.
那我们把它分成5个之后，是每一个游戏开发者都会获得1份。那另外多出来的这份就是给总集这所有游戏的制作人，就是 Doug Wilson， 他会拿到2份。
So basically, I earn 18.5% of all the profit that Sportsfriends makes.
那所以基本上我在所有的利润当中，我占的比例是18.5%。
And profit means revenue, which is about $900,000, minus the roughly $200,000 cost. So our profit is, even though our revenue is $900,000, our profit was more like $700,000.
那我们这里的利润就是我们的总收入是90万，那扣掉20万的部分就是我们的利润的部分。
And that $900,000 is how much money made it to us, right? Every time Sony sells a copy of the game, they keep a percentage and we get a percentage. I don't think I can publicly say what those percentages are, but it's pretty easy to find on the internet. And so that's not, the game by now has made over $1 million for, if you include everyone who made money off of it. But us, Sportsfriends, we've made 900,000, which means our profit is 700,000.
那 Sony 的部分就是 Sony 他们销售量，他们销售出去的收入呢，会依照比例就是分给我们。那我不太清楚这个比例可不可以告诉大家，大家如果有兴趣可以上网去查，应该是查得到。那最主要就是反正我们最后的总收入就是90万这样子。
So my share, the game has made about $700,000 in profits so far in the first 3.5 years.
那现在我们的游戏呢，从发行之后到现在，我们大概已经赚了70万美金。
So that would mean I've made about $130,000 before taxes.
所以这就代表是我赚了13万美金。那当然这个是还没有扣税之后。
And there's a note here that some of that money goes to the audio designer. It's not all in my pockets, but I've made the majority of it.
那当然也要告诉大家的是，我赚这些钱，有些钱会给我的音效设计师的部分。
Also, I did all this math this morning, and then I was looking at the checks I've gotten already, and it's not $130,000. So maybe I made a little mistake here and there, but it's roughly in that space.
但是我今天早上在计算的时候，发现我的那个薪资单上面好像不是这个数字，但是粗略上是这个数字，没有错。
So I won't lie, I'm a little surprised that this little artsy game that I made just for fun turned out to actually, make money.
但坦白说，就是我没有想到，其实原本只是我跟我朋友自己在玩这个游戏，最后竟然可以让我赚钱。
And we put it together into this bigger package to make this big weird project, and it basically worked out.
那我们就把4个小游戏都放在一起，所以虽然它们都非常的奇特，但我们也没想到说我们要放在一起之后，还真的可以做出一点成绩来。
And we're definitely not millionaires now, and we're not swimming in money, but I'm very happy with the amount of money the game has made, and it's definitely more than I expected.
但我们也不是百万富翁，我们也没有说生活在非常多的金钱当中，但是我真的很开心，就是可以利用这款游戏就支撑我的生活。
And really quickly, I'll give you some kind of key takeaways from this and some kind of warnings. I'm way over my time, so I'll try to go fast.
那当然给大家一些可以带着走的一些诀窍跟一些一些想法。
And you can tell I kind of wrote this morning, and I'm a little tired, so it says indie, don't worry about that. First of all, there are indie mid-range successes. Not every indie game made over either $100 million or $0.
事实上，在独立游戏开发界当中，当然也是有像我们这种比较中阶层的成功的案例的。
I feel like everyone talks about $100 million games and $0 games. There are games where people made a nice salary to make it. They're not super rich, but it worked out.
那当然，这些游戏呢，就是会像大家看到，它可能是会赚非常多钱，甚至就是没有钱。但是当然也是有像我这种比较中阶的例子。
I also think it's very important to understand the zeitgeist. Zeitgeist is this weird German word, but basically, understand what makes sense in a certain place in a certain time.
那跟大家提到 zeitgeist 这个字的一个概念 ，zeitgeist 是一个德文的字，它的意思就是你要懂得去观察现在这个时代跟现在你所处的这个环境当中，他们到底需要的潮流是什么。
Today. If I had to release a game next year, I probably wouldn't make Sportsfriends. I think that console manufacturers don't care quite as much about indie games towards the end of a console's life cycle. And maybe what worked in 2012, 2013, 2014 might not work in 2017 or 2018.
那当然，除了你要对环境有一些观察的敏锐度之外，当然也提到说，我可能假如之后我有机会可以做游戏开发的话，我可能就不会做像 Sportsfriends 这样子的游戏。
I also think it's important to think of marketing as part of development. We weren't thinking that we're marketing our games when we're showing at these events, but we're definitely marketing them. And every time you're getting people to talk about your game, you're doing marketing, and that's very, very important. And it's obviously better to do it if you're enjoying doing it instead of just feeling like you have to do it.
那当然，我们也要把行销这一块呢，就是放入我们游戏开发之中非常重要的一环。因为一旦人们开始谈论你的游戏的时候，你就是已经在做行销了。
As I said before, what worked in 2012 to 2014 in the United States might not work in other places. I happen to be in New York. I think if I were in my hometown in Brazil, it would have been a lot easier to do this very local physical project.
那当然，我们的这个作品呢是2012年到2014年在美国所制作的。当然也有提到，就是假如我今天是在巴西，我住的家乡去制作这款游戏的话，也许就不会有人去注意到这款游戏，它就只是一个很不起眼的当地游戏而已。
And then the other question is this kind of money enough money to be a full-time indie developer if you don't have your wife paying for your life?
那当然，我们也有提到说，我们究竟可不可以把独立游戏开发这个事情当做我的全职的工作呢
I could probably, with that kind of money, live for 2-3 years in New York City, and the money is still coming in, which is very nice. But what if do I have to make a successful game every 2 years in order to keep paying rent and buying food? What if one game fails? Is your company over?
那当然，这会关系到我们生活的一些开销的部分。那我们就要思考的是，那我下一个游戏会不会也会同样赚到这样子的金钱，有办法支撑我的生活
？So as much as I feel like Sportsfriends worked out and it did well, I'm not sure if it's a sustainable business model. I mean, I'm a professor now. Bennett is a professor. Doug Wilson is a professor. And then Noah is working on the Killer Instinct games in Chicago. So we all either had or now have full-time jobs on top of this.
因为如果假如一个游戏失败的话，你可能就没有金钱的收入。所以事实上在 Sportsfriends 发行之后呢，我们虽然有持续的得到金钱，但是我同时现在也是一个教授，我们其他游戏开发者也都是教授。
But with that said, I think it's pretty cool. Sometimes your little dream game can actually work out and make you some money, which is way beyond what I dreamed of doing. So I'm very, very happy about how this worked out.
但有时候，如果你一些小小简单的梦想的游戏真的可以成功的话，其实也是很不错的。
And maybe equally importantly, we're all still friends. We have a Slack channel between the 4 of us. We chat with each other most days, and we don't hate each other, which is pretty impressive.
那我们4个人仍然是朋友，然后我们还是很常会聊天，我们并没有讨厌彼此。
And yeah, I mean, we all got together, we made this game, and then we split up and we're all doing our own thing. And I don't think that many people do that, make that choice. Often you become a company and that's it. But we purposefully came together to make this, basically let's make one album together and then let's split up. And yeah, I think it worked out basically.
那事实上，我们就是4个人聚在一起，就是完成这样的作品。我们没有像有些人，他可能合作完了之后反而成立了公司，我们就只是很单纯的合作伙伴。合作完这款游戏，我们就会分开过各自的生活，那还是过得非常的开心。
Thank you.
好，谢谢大家。
非常谢谢大家。
If they want to ask me questions afterwards, I'll just find me anywhere.
那个因为时间关系，所以如果等一下大家对Ramiro 的演讲有任何想要私下跟他请教，然后他跟我讲，他非常欢迎大家找他讨论。所以那因为时间关系，我们要接下一场。